Hello.
Hello.
Hey, how's it going? How's it going, girly? How's it going? I'm super high energy today. How's it going?
Well, now that you ask, going well. I also am high energy, kind of. Pulled an all-nighter a couple of nights ago, but feeling recovered and ready to go. How about you?
Okay. Well, for me, it's just my just ever happening panic attack that keeps me very energetic. It's like I can't sleep or move or I think I'm going to die. So I am energy through the roof. You can't imagine, you don't know the half of it.
You're like a
It's
hummingbird,
terrifying.
but with
Yeah, and
anxiety.
amazing. Exactly. No, no, in all seriousness, God. Hi everyone. You know what? Let's grab that. Just that bit's been scrapped. I mean, staying in the edit, obviously, but it's been scrapped. Hi everyone. Welcome to Scary Talk episode 74. Wow, we have a doozy for you today. Murder. But
Yeah.
before we talk about that, let me talk about our sponsor.
Our sponsor today is my butthole, which I found out if someone were to kill me, you could fill with yogurt to make it decompose more quickly to cover the body. So, really, our sponsor is the yogurt. That was one of those tricky
Wow.
ads where you can't figure it out until the end. So,
Well, she did not fail to deliver. And
oikos.
also, I learned something new. So, hell, wow. Um,
Thanks, oikos.
uh, okay. Hi, all. Welcome to this episode. We are doing True Murder Part 2 today, so get excited for that. But before that, how are you doing, Sunny? Can you believe that it's almost September and we're still in Corona time?
Don't ask. You're gonna bring up some tough emotions for me right now. No, I can't believe it, first of all. Second of all, it's been really hard on me and my family of cats and dogs.
I mean, I know it's a joke, but honestly, I'd believe it. Like, my dogs are sad sometimes. I have to cheer them up. I feel like they don't run or
When you
walk as
have to
much
cheer up
anymore,
your
even bark
dogs,
as much anymore.
it's a bad situation. That is...
It just, I feel like they're depressed too. I mean, sometimes they got to go on little road trips where we take them to stuff, or I don't know, the store or whatever. Nothing now, and they be sad. So I also have like 18 cats, while my mom does, and I mean, they don't mind. They're totally fine. They're completely feral, and they don't like humans at all. So I don't think they know a difference really.
Their
But
life just, or their
you
world
know,
just got a little bit bigger with humans not coming out.
I think so. Yeah, for them for sure. It's funny because I'm pretty sure they escape like all the time, and they just come back for food. So that's kind of like they are ours, but I mean,
Yeah.
not really. So yeah.
Those, what is it? Cats are the equivalent of people who believe in polyamory, I guess. That's their level of attachment.
Oh wow. Okay. Wow, I was gonna tell you to elaborate, but I totally got that now. Also, totally not coming for the polyamorous community. We understand
True.
you guys are very committed to
If
your
anything,
31 different
I've been
relationships.
thinking about it recently, so it's on my mind.
Really?
Polyamory's been, well, it's not like monogamy has treated me so well thus far, so I might as well
Well, I
try
mean, has it
whatever,
been
right?
monogamy or has it been the boys within it?
Oh, it's been the boy.
The boys with with two eyes within it. Yeah, like which one, right? So,
Yeah, I'm a sucker for
I
soft
mean,
boys.
ugh, dude, soft boys, they're so hot right now. Listen, I don't like soft
Timothy
boys.
Chalamet looking at.
Listen, I don't like soft boys, but I can totally see the appeal, and I also can see how popular and hot they are right now. Like,
Yeah.
girls right now, and I guess some gays are just dying for guys that are, they have a lot of feelings. They have a jawline that could, like, cut butter. They have, like, under eyes that look like they haven't slept in
Oh my god.
ever. They've
Wait,
never
where did you
slept.
find a photo of
And
my ex? Oh my god. Andre, I thought we hadn't shared that yet.
right, and they have names like what's like a soft boy name?
Oh, that's a good
Shoot.
question.
I mean, I'm not asking about actual celebrities that are soft boys because then I'd tell you, oh, Timothy is a soft boy name, but
Maybe
like
like a
generic soft
soft
boy
name,
names.
like
Like if you were to have a child and you wanted them to be a soft boy and you believe in what's that term that like the science that thinks that name determinism,
oh
something like
yeah,
that.
yeah.
Yeah, like what would you name them for them to become a soft
Oh,
boy?
you know what?
Um,
Teddy is a good soft boy name. It's like kind of sweet.
well, Also a literal one, but
Dude, the
not
shoulder
gonna get
length
into that.
hair. Also, it's.
Uh, Flynn. Flynn. Do you
Oh,
think it's a
that's a
soft
good
boy
one.
name?
That's you know what? That's a literal soft boy. Rapunzel in the Tangled movie.
Ah,
Yeah,
okay. Bo is a soft boy name. Bo.
Bo. I could see that,
Like
but I.
Beau. You
Oh,
know, like
okay,
beautiful in
okay. Yeah, yeah,
French,
yeah.
I
You
think.
spell it exotic to make it not just sound like a southern, like you call your
Okay.
dog Bo.
Okay, wait. So I just googled soft boy names and okay, it's interesting. There actually is a list
Ooh.
of soft boy names. And they say that these names are good because these soft, gentle boy names are ones that have a lot of history behind them. And one of the names is dead ass free. Now, if you named your firstborn free, now that's dude, you're asking for your kid to get bullied with a name like that. Like
More importantly, I want to bully you.
just I don't like it. Speaking of names that are kind of terrible, but I mean whatever, I'll respect it. Katy Perry just had her child and she named her Daisy. And she's married to Orlando Bloom. So this girl's
Oh
name is Daisy
shit.
Bloom.
They really said Northwest who?
They really said Daisy Bloom. And I mean,
Wow.
I gotta hate, but I also gotta stand. And I kind of
Dude,
like Katy
celebrities
Perry.
literally
And
see themselves as the center of the narrative. You know what I mean? You have to believe
I
that if you
mean,
can name your kid Daisy Bloom. You're like, my kid isn't
listen,
like the other kids. My kid has a story.
I I'm totally an advocate though for like making yourself the main character in your movie because I mean hell it's your life, it's your
It's
brain,
true.
right?
It's
It's your
true.
perspective on the
Yeah.
world. But here's the thing though, I still don't disagree with you though. It's I I advocate for what I advocate for, but at the same time I think a name like Daisy Bloom is just so narcissistic. Like it just makes me cringe.
Hmm.
I mean, listen to that fucking name, Daisy Bloom. Like, you might as well have named her Rose Petal. Like, what kind of a fucking name is that? Sorry, Katie. We stand. Everyone, go stream Smile now out everywhere. Um.
Very true. Well, the thing is, I
Anyway.
feel like my name is borderline that. Because Sunny is definitely
Oh my
like.
God, your name is Sunny. I totally fucking forgot. Ew. Fuck you. Go away.
Plus,
Gross.
plus, my last name starts with an S, so I've got the alliteration thing going. You know, like Clark
True.
Kent, Peter Parker, um,
Yeah.
all the superheroes have
Yeah.
the alliteration deal. So I guess I'm just the center of my own narrative, is what that means.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. It is pretty weird because your name is Sunny Soft Girl, and it's just kind of you must know how I feel about that.
How could you
So
share my
I'm just
last
gonna let
name
it
with the
go.
viewers, Andre? That is so unprofessional.
It's okay. We'll take it on the cutting room. But okay. Now, oh my God, I have no segue for this, but I need to talk about it because it just happened. It's current, and I mean, so the Chadwick Boseman died, the guy that played Black Panther.
Wait,
Um,
what?
yeah, what a
How did I not
mood
hear about
shift.
that? Are
Sorry.
you for real?
Yeah. He died 30 minutes ago.
Oh,
This feels so wrong.
shit. We should just call this
Okay,
a
but you know what?
reaction
Okay,
podcast, dude.
listen.
I
You
will.
know what? Yeah, this is. Sunny didn't know about this.
Oh. Whoa, how did he die? How did
Yeah,
he die?
yeah. Apparently he was fighting colon cancer. So
Whoa, and
yeah, had no
whoa.
idea. It's kind of crazy because okay. I know this makes me sound bad, but when I first heard this, my mind immediately went to what's gonna happen with Black Panther 2, which I know is fucked up. Um, but also I cannot be the only person that thought that immediately. Okay, like I understand sympathy and
Maybe his
empathy,
agent and
but
producers. Jesus, Andre.
but yeah, honestly, I'd be the best. I have no soul. I would be the best producer. Are you kidding me? Okay, listen.
You would make such a
No,
good
I mean,
agent. Andre, I could
I
really see that
know.
for you.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it. I also have so many ideas for how like people's careers should go, but whatever. That's just my control freak. Now, listen. My condolences to the family and friends, obviously, but at the same time, let's get real. When people say that and they don't actually are close to that person at all, like that celebrity,
Mm.
it just to me it feels kind of disingenuous. You can tell me it doesn't feel that way to you. I mean, I
That's
know.
true,
I
yeah. People
think
get way too emo over deaths of people that they, like, they actually don't know.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Like, I mean the condolences, but also they're not gonna listen. Like, the family and friends are not listening to this. They really couldn't care less about my condolences. And at the same time, it's the condolences to someone you don't know or are close to at all are kind of a formality. So really, I feel like people come for people that don't express a lot of emotion over a celebrity's death too hard. Like, people come for those people too hard, and it's like, don't, like, you don't care either. You just pretend like it's a bunch of
Yeah,
virtue signaling back
yeah,
and
and
forth.
plus the thing that you're grieving isn't really them. You know, none of us actually know these celebrities. We know their art,
Right.
or like the them that's
Right.
curated in like publicized interviews. You know, it's like you're you're grieving like an image that you have, or like the movies that you liked, but yeah.
Right, but I feel like our society primes us so much to be so respectful at the concept of death, even if it's one that's very distant from you. That, like, that's precisely
Yeah.
why I felt bad when I told you he died 30 minutes ago, because it's almost like it's so soon to talk about anything even remotely related to comedy about this
Mm.
person. But I don't think so. I
And
mean,
plus, you know, I don't
one,
know Chadwick, but I
not.
feel like he would want a laugh or two.
Right, like, it's not even that, because I'm not even gonna make a joke about
Oh,
him.
of
It's just
course.
even just mentioning him within our comedy podcast feels wrong,
Mm.
and I think that is wrong. I think me feeling wrong for that is
Oh, I
wrong,
agree.
because,
I
like,
totally agree.
you know,
Also, death is normal. You know, millions of people that we don't know every day die. Maybe it's thousands. I don't know the numbers. But it's
Sonny
like,
really said, "Motherfuckers be
dude,
dying." So,
dude, literally, people be dying. Okay, I don't know what you want me to do. I can't grieve every one of them. Okay, so I've seen Chadwick in a movie, and he was really hot and cool, and that's very sad that we lost
yeah,
him. But and of course, his family and friends must be feeling crazy right now. But that's
yeah.
not our responsibility. You know, that's not all of America's
I know.
responsibility.
No, here's the thing though. It is shocking because he was just 42. I also thought he was younger than that,
Whoa,
and also
yeah.
because
I didn't know he was in his
you don't
40s.
hear.
Mm.
Right. You don't hear about big celebrities dying. I mean, not at a young age, obviously. Everyone
Yeah,
dies, but you know what
yeah,
I mean? Like, this is
yeah,
big because he was the Black Panther. Like, that movie was huge.
yeah.
Um,
Wow.
yeah, I mean, to answer my own question, I think if they didn't already film his footage, they might pull a
I love how
Princess
you're
Leia
still.
on him.
I completely forgot about. You're so.
Not me,
Your
not me.
focus is
I'm on the dot.
astounding.
I'm focused. Listen. I don't know if you saw Rogue One or even The Rise of Skywalker, but both of them had CGI Carrie Fisher. She looked
Oh.
terrible. I think that Disney is still full on CGI when they try to recreate someone who's dead, rather than go the more realistic, now available route has been for a number of years, which is deepfake technology, rather
Yeah, to
than
use someone
CGI
else and then put their
recreation.
face in.
Right, to use actual
Yeah.
footage of that person rather than try to recreate a digital 3D model that looks just like them. Because the thing about digital 3D models of a person is that at the end of the day, it's like an artist painting a painting, right? Like, it really is
Yeah.
just the artist literally doing that by hand, but 3D and digital. So the thing about that is, like, a picture is always going to look more real than a painting of someone, and
Mm,
deepfake is literally just old footage of that person. So that will look more realistic.
totally.
So they are not doing that, as far as I'm aware. If they're gonna do that with him, if they're gonna, like, bring him back for this movie and they didn't already film his footage, I think they should do that. Anyway, R.I.P. Chadwick. That does fucking suck, though. He was really young.
Whoa.
So
That's just wild that you bring up the. I hadn't even thought about what if we could use stuff. What if we could use him even though he's passed? That's crazy. Imagine a world in the future where when you sign on for a movie, it's like, hey, even if you die, we have the rights to, like, use your image. That's wild.
I mean,
Whoa.
I think that, like, someone like an actor like Carrie Fisher didn't sign up for that necessarily, and that's still happening. So I can totally see that world coming into place
Damn.
because, I mean,
Yeah.
they used her likeness and her image after her death. I mean, granted, I guess there was permission given by Fisher's estate for Disney to be able to do that, but
Mm.
still, like, she didn't sign that contract, and here we are.
Yeah.
And I don't know if she would like that.
Well, Carrie's estate was
So
probably like, how much are you gonna pay me
yeah,
now?
I mean,
Yeah.
the estate were the children and the cousins and the whatever
And you
being
know what?
like,
That's okay.
you know,
They deserve the bag. They're going through grief. It's okay.
I mean, it's kind of, and at the same time, it's. I also think, like, well, I mean, she ain't gonna need the money anymore. Like,
I mean, honestly,
no, no, no,
that's such
no.
a
I mean,
funny tough thing for me. Of like, do we respect their word or do we just admit like You know, what are they gonna? I guess it depends on how much you believe in ghosts.
I mean, it's not to me. It's not even about ghosts. It's just about, I think, letting someone just fucking die. Like,
Mm.
like if I die, I wouldn't. If I was, a huge celebrity, I don't think I would want my likeness used. Like, bitch, I'm dead. That's all you got. That's all the work you got from me. That's everything you got from
Yeah, I
me.
kind of feel that
Um,
too. Yeah.
you don't get to bring me back and deep fake me and also deep voice me, which is a very potent technology made by Adobe that is very, very, very good and convincing. You don't get to do that to just like have me in movies for the rest of time. Like, no, let me die.
Yeah, and that creates some
um,
real issues money wise, you know? Because then it's like, oh, well, I can do this without having to pay anyone and still get this celebrity face
right.
and name in my movie. That's,
What if you're
yeah.
a super corrupt relative, and and you own part of that estate, so you can manage that celebrity's likeness, and you just get to use them forever? That's kind of fucked up. Maybe they will haunt you, bitch. Um, you
Get
deserve it.
haunted, bitch.
I mean, yeah. So like, I know that I've seen Carrie Fisher here. I saw Audrey Hepburn for a cheap fucking Italian chocolate commercial be used, and she looked terrible. And I'm just like, I don't think they would have
Audrey
liked that.
Hepburn,
I also,
whoa.
yeah, I know that Whitney Houston's estate agreed to her doing like a holographic tour, and she did do that like last year, I think, for
Whoa.
a number of dates.
Well, I didn't know about
And
this.
that was,
Andre, this is like half the
yeah.
episode now, because this is crazy. I had no idea this was
I don't
going
care.
on.
This is great.
This is pretty supernatural when you think about it.
Oh, totally. I mean, we could totally incorporate it into, are these celebrities gonna haunt their estate owner relatives? I
Oh, they
fucking hope so.
better.
They deserve it. I want Whitney Houston to be like, and I will always haunt you, and like that's her talking to her brother. Um, now, yeah, so that happened. I know that Michael Jackson was dead for like a fucking year, and already he was doing like holographic appearances. Like, I don't know, he did something with Justin Timberlake at one point, at like an award show.
Yeah, and
So,
oh my god, when you say like at an award show, especially when it's something so clearly that's like a performance or something, it's also like
mhm.
they're dead. They're fucking dead. Dude,
I know.
like they should be at peace, chilling, or it's good to
I
remember
think
them. But I don't know about
I think people
yeah. Hmm?
I think people don't even think about that. That doesn't even cross their mind that they're dead. And I mean, at least in my opinion, it's disrespectful because it's so flashy and and interesting and awesome that the technology exists. I think
Mm.
that's why it doesn't even cross their mind to think the
Dude,
other
this
way.
is a Black Mirror episode like in the making.
Oh, absolutely. In the making. I think this is season 2, episode 4. Are you kidding me? I think it's just something like, I don't know where it was exactly, but there's an episode about someone dies
I
and
saw
the wife
that.
is sad
Yeah.
and she brings him back. And it's like
Yeah.
some digital, it's like a clone of him.
Yeah,
It's like a robot.
made off of like his
but it has
social
like his
media stuff.
consciousness.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fucked up. Let me die, bitch.
Well, that's the thing.
Let
Is
me
is
rest
that
in
thing
peace.
even you? What is that thing?
This is totally me, like representing Shannon here right now, because this is totally what she'd say. She'd say, "Girl, I gave you what I had. Bitch, I'm done. Let me die." She just, yeah, for sure. Shannon, tell me if I'm wrong. So
We should get a Shannon voice deepfake for an episode.
Oh my god. You know what? I might like bring that deepfake thing up in another episode and show you how it works, and I can probably incorporate it into the audio of the episode because it's wild.
Whoa.
There's a video of like Barack Obama, like he's deep faked and deep voiced, and there's like this video of him talking about crazy shit, and it's just
Oh.
crazy how real it
Yeah,
looks.
wait, I think I saw one of those where it had him singing the Big Chungus song.
No, that one was real. But there's another one. He's a fan. He's a fan. Anyway. So oh, okay. Like last note though, there's even another Black Mirror episode, the one with Miley Cyrus, where
Oh,
she's
yeah.
basically like in a coma, and they take her voice and they
Yeah,
just make
I saw
songs
that one
with
too.
it.
Yeah. Exactly.
But the thing is that like they're able to still like she's still doing the writing apparently, because in her coma she's still like writing in her dreams, and they're able to extract that somehow with this weird technology from her dreams.
Yeah.
So they have the writing and kind of like what the music sounds like also. They kind of can take that from her brain. It's just obviously like super sci-fi,
Totally.
right? But like my favorite part of that episode is where they're like extracting a song from her, like, oh, we just need one more song to complete the album, and they're extracting her song, and it's like about like being in a cage and she hates life, and the evil like woman that's keeping her in a coma or whatever, she's like, oh, producer, turn up the happy button or whatever, and he like turns like a happy like fucking thing on, and the song all of a sudden goes from like, oh, I'm in my cage, I hate life, to like, oh yeah, like let's party, let's go have fun. And to me, that was like, oh my god. One, how did they get Britney's producer on this episode? And two, free Britney, free Britney.
Oh,
Anyway,
did you see the update with Jamie Lynn?
no, what happened? What happened?
The new person in control of her fortune is her sister, Jamie Lynn Spears. I just saw the headline.
Oh
I
my
haven't even looked into it more,
God.
but yeah.
Dude, that's awesome. I had not heard about that.
Yeah,
No.
look at us updating each other. Wow.
Ah, dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yay. I mean, you know, she's still in this thing, but at least I'm sure she trusts her sister more than anyone. So
Yeah, I feel like everyone's more comfortable with that setup.
dang. Okay.
Everyone being
Well,
Britney's fans who don't know her at all, so again, why would we have any say? But
yeah. We're sure Brittany likes it. We can read her mind. Okay, let's get into murder, dude. So what you got for me?
Now that we're 20 minutes in, that's amazing. You know, it was semi-supernatural though. So I've got Jane Toppin, or Jolly Jane. I really liked this bitch. I started to feel like I was connecting with her while I was reading about it. Do you ever have that happen when you're reading about a serial killer and you're like, what if I could have been a serial killer? It's like you could read enough about anyone and feel like, oh, they're so, you know?
I mean,
Okay,
Sunny
that's
really be
just me.
saying, I
That's
can
just
totally
me.
relate to this serial killer.
To be fair, it doesn't happen. Maybe it's just the representation because she's a woman. Maybe I'm just feeling that.
We need more women. We need more female serial
representation.
killers. I mean, listen. I mean, in the sense that, like, okay, I've totally thought about every serial killer. It starts out as just like a normal human person.
Mm-hmm.
Like, granted, yeah, some of them are born with like psychopathic tendencies, and those are like innate. They're not learned. Okay, fine. But a lot of them aren't, and it's like, yeah, that could have been me. You could totally think about that for
Totally,
sure.
totally. It's definitely, I started getting into some Shutter Island type philosophy of like, are these people redeemable? In some cases, I'm gonna go ahead and posit my answer, no. But yeah, it's super interesting. And I read a whole book called Confessions of a Sociopath that was very interesting about like psychopathic, sociopathic tendencies and how much of it is learned and how much of it is innate and stuff. It's very cool. It's a whole thing. But I do feel like there's got to be something fucked up in your environment growing up for you to go full serial killer. You know?
Obviously. As far as being redeemable, I think that you saying like an absolute no is might be our American culture like talking out of our mouths, because I know that.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah.
a Swede would tell you, "Oh yeah, totally. We try to reform and rehabilitate even our most violent offenders in Swedish prisons." Like it's a completely different thing.
Whoa.
So
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. But yes, Jane Toppin. So, she was born in 1854. This is kind of an ancient murderer. She did it before it was cool. Her mother died when she was 3 years old, and her father was well known as an eccentric and abusive alcoholic. You can't see it, but I'm like dancing right now when I say alcoholic. And he was nicknamed in their village as Kelly the Crack, which is also an alliteration. Kelly the Crack, that's very clever, as in crackpot. Her father was the source of a lot of local rumors growing up about his insanity, the most popular of which being that his madness finally made him sew his own eyelids closed when he worked as a tailor. So that's just wild and whack. And kind of cool. Shout out to Peter Kelly for that before we even get into his daughter, Jane Toppin. But the cool thing here is that, so her original name was Honora, Honora. And when she was 6, her father left her and her older sister at an orphanage. When she was 8, she actually joined a household that, from all accounts, was like pretty kind to her as an indentured servant, and she took on the name Jane Toppin because they were the Toppins. So I thought this was an interesting case too, because she joined this kinder household at 8 years old. You're like, well, maybe some fucked up shit went down, but like she can, get through it. Spoiler alert, she does not. So she had some tumultuous 20s. I relate. Okay, I can't really say I relate. She was like trying to commit suicide. She was having some wild times. And she got into nursing school, and there's actually a quote from her fellow nursing school students. A lot of people liked her. This is when she got the name Jolly Jane. But they also quoted her as saying, "There's no use keeping old people alive." So I'm not sure how that crossover happened.
I mean, listen. Listen. If it's between, like, okay, so you have one respirator and you have a 6-year-old and you have an 85-year-old, who are you going to give it to?
I mean, that one's pretty clear.
Right. I mean, now, think of the world as just one big respirator, right? I mean, it gives us oxygen.
With the environment, you're not so wrong, honestly. Maybe Jane Toppin was an environmentalist.
Maybe she, I mean, I think she was. So, I'm just saying, low-key woke. So, anyway.
And this is why I'm saying imagine. That I relate to her.
Elder murder, low-key woke. So, anyway.
God, no. There's actually a whole thing about that, with people saying COVID's healing the environment and the controversial... Anyways, a whole other thing. So, her thing that she started learning during nursing school was that she could inject morphine into a patient, which would cause them to go into a coma, and then she could revive them with another drug called atropine, which, like, they would be revived for a second and then possibly die from the drug mix, and she would experiment with different mixes and figure out what worked best, and we don't really know whether this is romanticized or not, but she is recorded saying that she derived a sexual thrill from patients being near death, coming back to life, and then dying again. Which actually...
Oh, I totally believe it.
Wait, right?
Yeah, totally believe it. Yeah.
So she would, like, get into bed with them and, like, fondle her victims and look into their eyes. A lot of the accounts just say that she would get into bed with them, but they don't say that anything sexual necessarily happened beyond... Well, okay, fondling, that's pretty... Okay.
Yeah.
But I guess not intercourse.
I mean, it probably couldn't happen because, old people joke, erectile dysfunction. Was that funny? Anyway.
The lack of energy that you delivered that way. But yeah, she would lay with them as they died. Yeah, and apparently, maybe get off a little bit afterwards. Obviously, no one would acknowledge that in the 1900s papers. But so she would murder. So the interesting thing about her is she would murder patients who she didn't know, some of whom she really liked. So she would, like, make them live for longer and try out different things. But she also went back and decided, well, now that I've discovered this stuff and I know how to use it, she went back and killed a ton of people. She is recorded as killing at least 30 people. And it was her goal to kill more. She wanted to kill as much as she could. So she started by killing her landlord. True Marxist, leftist. We claim Jane Toppin. Just kidding, we don't. So she killed her landlord. She killed someone else that she owed debt to, the Davises. And she had a foster sister, Elizabeth, in the Toppin household. And who, again, is recorded to have treated her kindly. I say recorded because I'm also like, I don't know, if you're an indentured servant at 8, that can only be so kind of a situation for you. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
But
yeah, like that's pretty wild to have to wear dentures and be a servant at 8. That's insane. So I
hate you so much for that one. That was the actual. That was it. I'm done. I'm gonna head out. Throwing my phone to the ground and just walking out here. But yeah, she killed her foster sister, Elizabeth, too. She said, hey, let's go on a trip, and then Elizabeth mysteriously became sick and died on that trip. And then Jane actually went back and tried to seduce Elizabeth's husband. She did this by making him sick and reviving him and seeing if that worked, which it didn't. She then tried to blackmail him, and it didn't work. And then eventually he asked her to leave, and she killed him. So, okay. Interesting. I don't know what her incentives or her motives were there either. But she was finally discovered after killing the Davis family. Again, she was literally killing entire families. Crazy that she got away with this for so long. And when she was
Damn.
arrested, yeah, she tried to argue that she wasn't insane, which you don't often hear. You don't hear people these days going like, no, 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 I fully knew what I did. This was premeditated first degree murder. But she insisted upon her own
Mm-hmm.
sanity, saying that she couldn't be insane if she knew what she was doing and knew that it was wrong. Which makes a lot of sense to me. But she was declared insane and committed. And I'm curious about how much of that argument she wanted to not be insane because she knew that she could eventually get out of prison. But also, she ended up in an insane asylum, essentially, which, as we all know from Shutter Island, is bad news in the 1900s. Um,
Yeah, but it's not. I mean, it's definitely not worse than prison. It's crazy. So she didn't go to prison for these murders. She went to an insane asylum, even though she said, "No, I'm not insane. I
yeah,
want
they
prison."
still found her not
What the
guilty by reason
fuck?
of insanity and committed her for life in the Taunton Insane
My
Hospital.
God.
Yeah.
I mean, this was the 1800s. So you're probably like, I mean, she must have been insane to kill someone. You know,
No,
women periods.
exactly.
She was
They're like
probably
women are nurturers. There's just something a little bit off here. Yeah. Yeah, and she
God.
lived out the rest of her life in that insane asylum. Um, so that's Jolly Jane, or JJ, as I like to call her.
Cool.
In terms of why I relate to her, um, why do I relate to her? I think the no use keeping old people alive thing is interesting. I think that the whole
Mm.
sexual thrill thing is interesting. I
Okay.
guess I don't relate to the sexual thrill part as much, but it just makes sense, the idea of like, I'm gonna kill them and then bring them back to life. A little power trip there.
Well, it's having total control. I think it's
Exactly,
just like
exactly.
it's BDSM to the 9,000th power,
Yeah,
basically.
exactly. Um, I don't know, she just got, and then the fact that she argues for her sanity at the end. I just find that really interesting too. She's like, no, 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 I 100% knew what I was doing. And she's a bit of a scientist, doing all this. And it's just interesting. I don't know. She was trying to commit suicide in her 20s. Would that have been better for the world? Who knows?
Um,
Um,
I mean, listen. I think that is. I mean, is it possible that she kind of repented and so she wanted to serve prison time because she felt like she deserved it? Last minute, she was like, "Oh my god, I feel terrible about the
it's
murders,
true. It's
whatever." So can
possible. It's
you?
possible. And that's
Yeah.
the thing. Yeah, I don't ever want to. Don't ever want to endorse suicide. Period. T ever. Um, but yeah, that's the thing. Are they redeemable? I have
Mm-hmm.
another person where we can talk about that later in terms of is any serial killer redeemable? But I don't know. Something
I
about
mean,
her story is very interesting.
I guess it depends on your definition of redeemable. Like, do you mean will they be able would we be able to rehab this person to come back into society and fully integrate as a working member?
Mm.
Um, I mean, sure, yeah, I mean, I think you can do that, but
That's a
do
pretty
they
tough
deserve
one.
that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, also
That's a
that's a
different question.
surprisingly tough standard. I bet that there are lots of people who like if they can just live out their time in prison or like at like a hospital, um, where they don't have any stressors, they don't have any obligations, and maybe like are on antipsychotic medication and stuff. Maybe they can like live a somewhat chill life there and contribute to the whatever like kind of community exists there. But when you have to work, when you live alone, which is pretty isolating, it's probably hard for them to
Uh
make
huh.
friends if they've gone through all this shit. I feel like it's
Well,
it's
I mean,
tough.
I've heard about a shit ton of murderers that marry again just fine. If
Yeah.
anything, they have more than enough prospects because apparently women go crazy for serial killers that are even slightly, soft boy serial killers. Okay, I mean, listen, serial killers getting like love letters is nothing new. So just saying.
That's the other thing that I thought about with this episode is like I never want to. I mean, I definitely just glorified Jane Toppin, so R.I.P. But I genuinely don't want to glorify these people. Jane Toppin had 30 like victims who I should have named them honestly. Who had families and stuff, and her sister Elizabeth had been nothing but
Yeah.
kind to her. It's just I know that there's been studies that like showing the pictures of serial killers and like names and stories can actually encourage other people who have those tendencies to become killers in the hopes of gaining fame. So really, I'm just crossing my fingers that we don't have anyone with sociopathic tendencies listening. Um, but
And if we
and if we
do,
do, first of all, get help. And also, these
yeah,
killers aren't like cool and powerful. They're really just sad and pathetic. Jane had a really sad upbringing.
yeah.
She had a really cruel upbringing, and that brutality just led her to do the same thing as she got older. And that, at the end of the day, is really sad, is what I will say.
Yeah, but also if we did inspire you to do anything criminal, please do let us know by DMing us at Talk Scary on Instagram and Twitter, or at Scary Talk on our Facebook page. That was a joke. That was a joke. And that's a 2020 disclaimer, so there it is. That was a joke. Now, before I jump into my killer, I want to do a completely chaotic and just kind of unadvertised segue. We need to talk about WAP, Sunny, and we need to talk about it right now.
What about my story made you think of WAP?
I mean, I guess powerful women, right? But also just that I had it in my head, and I totally forgot to bring it up at the beginning of the episode. And by the beginning, I mean the first 20 minutes.
This is the most off-track episode.
I'm sure the listeners love it. I mean, not WAP. I mean, probably WAP too, but also us and the episode. Now listen, WAP. That stands for what are peanuts, right? Okay. No. So for those of you who don't know, if you've been living under a rock or a WAP,
You've been living under a WAP. You probably wouldn't
lucky.
have had the chance to hear this song.
Yeah, that's why I included it in the same sentence as rock. Listen, so WAP is this new song by Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B. And I know that this is kind of old because the outrage over it kind of already died. I know because it's no longer trending on Twitter, and that's how you know that something is no longer relevant. Twitter is kind of just a marker for anything and everything in the world. So, but I still want to talk about it.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's interesting.
Well, it made me explore Ben Shapiro's Twitter, which, first of all, was a gold mine. His Twitter is really funny. His Twitter is so funny. Oh my god.
Yeah, but in like the ironic way.
Yeah,
right?
no,
like...
exactly. It like amazes me. I never thought that I could get the pleasure that I do out of viewing the Twitter of someone whose opinions I disagree with, whose existence I disagree with. But it's really fun. Yeah.
Right. Also, okay. Now, it's because you can take like a Ben Shapiro tweet from like years ago and then a new one and put them together and like they completely contradict each other. I think that's what's so funny.
Oh, I could imagine easily.
You can do that a lot. But yeah, so speaking of Ben Shapiro specifically, and I guess this speaks to the larger outrage about the song, right? He like reacted to the song on his podcast.
And he read out the lyrics, right?
He read out the lyrics, and now there's like 1,000 remixes
Yep.
of him singing it. And since the song is about, Kitty, he really can take it. And I don't like completely dislike Ben Shapiro. I just dislike how much of a prude little Jewish boy he is. It's
Dude,
like he's 10 stuck in the body of a 40-year-old.
He's like, Black Lives Matter is super unreasonable, and then he's like, stop anti-Semitism. It's like, dude, you're so close to getting it.
It's
you're
like...
so close to getting it. I don't understand how you can be this close and not get it.
Like, he did not take the self-awareness pill that morning before going to work. You know what I'm saying? So, or any day. Now, listen. Anyway, the larger outrage about this song, which is what I want to talk about, is the fact that because the song is about vagina, basically, and to women being like, this is how I like to get fucked, and you got a problem with it? Well, too bad. This is what I like, period. Because of that, you had a bunch of people, especially men, coming out of their caves, and being like, this sets a terrible example for young women, blah, 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 and, like, young women are gonna want to sell their WAPs, and I don't know, and some congressman was like, the other day, I accidentally heard hashtag the WAP, and I'm like, oh, yeah, I love the WAP, sir, and he was like, I accidentally heard it, and it's terrible example, Cardi B, this is what happens when, females don't have, like, fathers in the home, whatever. It was like a whole ass mess, and... Like, to me, okay, two things, right? First, there were a bunch of people saying they accidentally heard it, right? A bunch of these men. One, okay, so the way algorithms work is you consume content and the algorithm recommends content to you that it thinks you're going to like based on what you consume. These people didn't accidentally listen to the song. Or if they did, it's because it came on their feed, not because someone else played it for them. And if it came on their feed, it's because they consume similar content to WAP. So shut the fuck up. Number two, just like the policing of women's body is hardcore. Am I right?
It's insane. Well, the thing is, the real thing is that men love like women sexualized, but only in the specific way that they want, right? They want like hot girls next to monster trucks who don't get to speak on the microphone because a guy is speaking for them. They don't want like Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B going and saying, "Check out my WAP." I feel like that's
Right.
the real. It's so interesting. But also the
Yeah, I
funniest
mean,
thing in the Ben Shapiro reread is that he reads the beginning and he says, "Whores in this house, whores in this house," and then he says, "Wet ass p word." That's female genitalia. So again, he's
right.
willing to say the word "whores" and it's not so terrible to him. But literally just naming the like natural word, well, not natural word, but a word for women's genitalia, pussy, is like is more of a curse word to him. It's more unsayable. I think that speaks volumes to this.
All I'm gonna say is I know Mrs. Shapiro must be having a bomb ass sex life. We'll just
Oh
leave it at
yeah,
that, you know?
she's got what we call a DAP.
Oh, okay. Now, listen. So, this is the reason I talk about this is because this is uber interesting to me. Like,
Mm,
not even from a political standpoint, but just from a sociological one, right?
mm.
Welcome to sociological talk, by the way.
We've we've done vegan
Just
talk,
because
sociological talk. We're branching out.
it's some kind of like dead ass gender hypocrisy, right?
Yeah.
Like a lot of these men that were like terrible example, fathers in the home, boo boo, wop, bad. They like where was that energy when you have literally any male rapper that is of any significance or popularity talking about women and their wops?
Oh
Like,
yeah, in a super
you
derogatory
know, in
way.
these degrading,
Every
violent,
single
demeaning
yeah,
ways.
yeah, totally, totally. That's like such a norm. Like fuck your bitch till she drop, whatever it is. Um,
I mean, you should, but
well, and
also,
that's not to
no,
speak
I
poorly
know,
on
I
rap because
know.
I love, you know, and there's a whole bunch of other politics that goes into like people being down on rap and stuff too, which is why I know that it's a bigger issue than that. But yeah, no, it's just such a double standard, very clearly.
I just think it's super interesting. Like people don't point that out, but whenever it's women reclaiming that same narrative for themselves of
Exactly.
being sexually explicit, being sexually vulgar, which I mean, songs have been vulgar for so long that's nothing fucking new. Then all of a sudden it's like a big deal. I remember listening to WAP for the first time and I was like, what's the big fucking deal with this? Like, has no one heard Lil Kim 10 years ago? Like, this is the same shit. 10 years, 20 years ago, if anything. So like, this is nothing new. Like, people act so shocked. Like, all the soccer moms went on like basically anywhere and everywhere they could to voice their opinion on the WAP. And I'm like, listen, just because you dap don't mean the WAP is BAP. So that's all I'm gonna say on that. It's just I don't know. I don't know. I
Yeah.
don't even think the song's that much of a bop. It's just I still want to defend it because I just think this shit's whack. Like,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
not fair.
I agree too. I feel like that it's this dude, Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B are living right now because they made a song that was like good but not great, but because of all the hype, all the controversy, it's popping, it's whopping. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Um,
yeah, yeah. Also, just like last note on that, I think it's super funny that like Cardi B went out of her way to put the censored version of her track on the music video, which is wet and gushy, because I don't know, she wanted it to be easier for radios to pick it up. I don't know what it is, but then radios were like, oh, this is still too much. So I don't know if you've heard the song on radio. I have. It's just called Wet. It's just wet. So Cardi says, what is it like? 7 days, like, fuck, what the fuck is it? Certified freak 7 days a week, wet. Make
no,
that pull-out game
shut
week.
up.
Like, those are the
That's
lyrics.
true.
Those are the
I haven't
lyrics.
heard that.
Those are the lyrics.
No.
Yes, yeah. And in the chorus, she's like, you know how it's like, now you fucking with some wet ass. Okay, so now she's like, now you telling with some wet. Like, that is the song now. And I laugh. I laugh. He laugh. Okay? So,
That's too much. That's so funny. That is so
anyway,
funny.
so
Ugh.
okay, now let me get into my murder story. We're just about 40 minutes into this 3-hour episode, so I am also gonna talk
We should someday do like an
about.
extra long episode as a special.
I
Maybe
mean,
for
if we keep
100 or
talking,
something.
this is gonna be it. If I keep going on these fucking segues. Okay, so I'm also gonna talk about a strong woman, especially very strong around the hands. If anything, too strong. She should have. Anyway, so her name is Juana Barraza. She was a Mexican former professional wrestler, and she's a serial killer. She was dubbed La Mata Viejitas, which translates to the old lady killer. I, growing up in Mexico, actually remember hearing about this a lot when it was popping, and
Mm.
she strangled her victims, which is why I made the strong hands joke. So
Mm.
haha laugh. Um, Now
I'm laughing.
this
I'm
bay.
laughing.
Yeah, thank you, thank you. I'm like Jeb Bush. Please clap. So she was sentenced to 759 years in prison because I guess they think she's immortal or something or a witch. Okay, no, dead ass though. Like I actually don't understand what that means. Like when people are sentenced to like these crazy
I
amounts
think
of
it's just like the
like does your
amount that would be deserved for what they did.
yeah, but like does your skeleton stay in the prison? Like how does that work? Like does that actually mean
They're
anything?
like, your ass is in jail even when your body's in the ground.
I know it's like Pirates of the Caribbean. Like you have literal skeletons inside like jail cells, and it's like,
Whoa.
ah, yeah, she's been here for 759. Like you
Whoa,
know what I mean?
yeah, that awakens some kind of deep memory. I haven't watched Pirates of the Caribbean in a long time.
That'd be hardcore. I'm more thinking of the fucking Disneyland ride, if anything.
Mm.
But anyway, so yeah, La Mata Viejitas. She killed 42 between 42 and 48 elderly women. So people are not sure. The first murder attributed to this woman was dated to the late 1990s. And that's kind of the overview of her. Now, as far as background, so Juana, she was born in Hidalgo, in a rural area of Mexico City, and her mother was an alcoholic. Ooh, take a shot every
Ooh.
time we say alcoholic. Okay, so who reportedly exchanged her for 3 beers to a man who repeatedly raped her in his care, and by whom she became pregnant with a son. That
Dude,
is
that is some super
fucked.
villain. That's some super villain origin story shit.
I know, dude. I know.
3 beers?
So
Come on. You could have
I
done
know.
4.
I was gonna.
You could have done 5.
I was literally about to make that joke, but then I stopped myself because I thought it would be insensitive. And then Sunny came in and she said, "Bitch." Now, okay. She had 4 children in total, and although her oldest son died from injuries sustained in a mugging,
Wait, so this is
almost
the killer herself.
yeah, the killer
Four
herself had
children. Wow.
4 children, and one died from a mugging. So I'm reading this background because this background is important, and you know the article I'm reading this from seems to think so as well, and
Mm.
I agree. It's important because we're trying to understand the mind of a killer, right? And we're trying to understand it from the starting point of this is just a human like us. Like how could you or I become a serial killer? And bitch, I think this is how. Like if I get sold for 3 beers to a stranger, and you know I'm a girl, right? I get raped, I get pregnant, and like this is terrible fucking life. One of my sons
Yeah.
dies now. Like
Yeah, and she yeah, so she got pregnant from the man that had raised her, who raped her.
yeah, for yeah, exactly. So
Uh,
super
uh.
fucked. I mean, at least for one of the kids, she was. There's not information about the other ones, but that's terrible enough. And also, one died, so that sucks. Um, I, I just think you can push the human mind like just only so much. You
No,
know what I
exactly.
mean?
Especially when
Like,
you're a kid. We'll see this across the board,
right.
but yeah, you like need love and care as a kid, as it turns out. Like you literally cannot grow up without love and care, as it turns out.
Right. So, she became a professional wrestler under the ring name La Dama del Silencio, so the Lady of Silence, which becomes ironic later. So she had a strong interest in lucha libre, right, like professional wrestling in Mexico,
Mm.
and I can totally see this just in the sense of like, like kind of like when kids who get bullied get into martial arts to defend themselves. It's kind of like that. It's almost more like a psychological thing because no one was
Mm.
gonna bully her at when she was an adult, but like it's like a thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, so she gets into that, and then all of a sudden, she starts killing old ladies. Like because the first case is pinned to her late 90s. Like there isn't like a set list of cases because we're not sure how many, and also some of them are very poorly documented because the Mexican authorities didn't do a good job. They just know that there
Mm.
was like a killing, and they kind of pinned it to her, and she, I guess, when she got caught, like admitted to it because if she didn't, like it's like it, I think they pinned some murders on her that weren't hers, but she
Mm.
couldn't be like no because I think that would make her trial more complicated, or they would try to fuck her over. I don't know. It's like a thing.
Yeah.
She still killed people though. Still pretty messed up. So, anyway, the point is that I don't have an exact date of when the first murder happened. But in the late 90s, she starts killing women 60 and over, many of whom lived alone. She would bludgeon them or strangle them before robbing them, which, kind of goes with her whole Lady of Silence thing. She would strangle them.
Mm.
Um,
Cool
Interesting,
connection,
yeah.
Andre.
So,
I'm gonna give you a plus 10 extra credit on today's English discussion.
thank you, thank you. So eventually enough killings take place. All the killings were the same. So she would 60 and over, and she would either strangle them or bludgeon them and then rob them of whatever little they had. Jumping onto like later when she's caught, she talks about, this is just from memory, she talks about how the reason she went for older ladies was, take a guess, take a wild ass guess.
Her mom sold
Take
her
a
for
guess.
3 beers. Central point to this story.
You got murder bingo. Okay, now who's got 3 beers? Okay, bingo. Okay, now, so that's why she did that, which just makes me sad. Now listen, murder bad, but also it's just so fucked up, isn't it? Because like murder bad, turning a child that way though is also pretty terrible, and it doesn't justify her killings obviously later in life,
yeah.
but. I mean, like I said, you can only push someone so much, right?
Yeah. Well, and it's interesting. It's just tough because on the one hand, I never want to stereotype people. I know that a lot of people that we deal with have like terrible backgrounds or like struggle with mental health issues. And that's not to say that everyone who has a terrible background or has mental health issues is going to be a serial killer, you know? It's important. I don't want to perpetuate that in any way. But it is sad. You know, a lot of these people have been brutalized growing up, and that's exactly what goes on as they get older. You can definitely see that.
Right. Isn't there some kind of philosophical saying that it's like if a community like turns its back on a child when they're young, that child will eventually grow up, come back, and burn the village just to feel its warmth?
Oh, that's a cool saying,
Yeah.
Andre. That's some Shutter Island level stuff.
I know I read it from somewhere and didn't just pull it out of my WAP, so I just go with it. Now, okay, so the search for this woman was complicated by conflicting evidence, and here's why. At one point, police hypothesized that there was actually 2 killers involved in this, and an odd coincidence also distracted the investigation. And this was that at least 3 of this woman's victims owned a print of an 18th century painting by French artist Jean-Baptiste Gros, A Boy in a Red Waistcoat. And they really thought that this had something to do with the painting until the investigation got derailed because of that like weird ass clue for a long time, when in reality it had nothing to do with it. I guess it's
That's
just a
so
popular
funny.
painting among the old people circle. So yeah.
Old people taste really be
Okay.
throwing off the investigation.
Yeah, investigators initially suspected that the killer was posing as a government official and that it must have been a guy because, that's the usual profile. Okay, whatever. I understand that because I think most killers are men.
Yeah, 90% of serial killers. Woo!
Right, so they thought it was this dude posing as a government official offering old ladies a chance to sign up for welfare programs and then like getting their trust and I guess strangling them in their home at some point, and that was the modus operandi. But turns out no. Eventually they changed their tune, and authorities believe that they actually did go for a woman because they had been hearing, they got tips. They were like, okay, maybe it is a woman. Oh shit! So now we're looking for a completely
in terms
different
of
profile.
trying to gain people's trust, I mean, it helps.
Right. So, investigators thought that this woman, whoever they were looking for, must have been brilliant and a psychopath who felt no remorse. Which, I mean, they came to find out they were kind of right once they did catch her. The article also goes into explain the connection with her mother, but we already made that connection. I think it's pretty clear. I will say that she specifically, the killer, believed that she was helping society by killing old women because they must have all been like her mom.
That is
terrible
so
ladies.
interesting. What is she gonna do when she gets old? Is she just gonna live into old age? Is she gonna cut herself off at 60? I mean, come on.
She said, but my time has come. So, I mean, I guess. So, in order to gain the trust of her victims, Turns out that she actually would do that. She would pose as a government official. She wasn't like offering them welfare though. She like posed as a government official. I think of like the Mexican IRS, something like that. And but very similar modus operandi to what the authorities first thought. Like gain their trust and eventually kill them in their home, strangling them.
Wow.
Barasa, which is the killer's last name, is placed, according to this article, in the caregiving category of female killers, which to me was
Whoa, that's
shocking.
actually the
Didn't
same
know there
as
was a whole ass
mine,
category.
Jane Toppin. Wow, we really said
Yeah, yeah,
caregiving
yeah,
women also be
yeah.
killing.
So I'm definitely connecting it to yours on purpose, but also
Mm.
I'm surprised that this is a whole category. This is bad. We have a problem. Like,
Yeah, it's a whole
you know,
category of it's a whole type
like
of
the
killing.
last place you'd expect to find someone who's gonna kill you, and rightfully so. It's like a nursing home. Like,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
so bad
Well, it's
screening.
interesting, yeah, because they go
Um,
for the most vulnerable victims. Both of them are going for older people here.
right, right.
Very fascinating.
The article mentions something just on its own paragraph. I guess it thinks it's very important to point out, as if it wasn't obvious. The trauma of Barassa's childhood abuse was a factor in her murders. You don't say. So
Wow, what a key piece. Thank you.
I know. Tell me about it. So that was her killings. Eventually, her trial came in the spring of 2008 after a long investigation and finally catching this woman. And they pinned 40 deaths on her. She admitted to one murder, though, and told the police that her motive was lingering resentment against her mother, obviously, blah, blah, blah. But even though she only admitted to one and was alleged to be responsible for 40, in the end, it landed kind of in the middle. She was found guilty on 16 murders and sentenced to what I told you, like 760 years in prison.
Mm,
So that's that.
wow.
Yeah.
What a story. What a
Yeah.
woman. Well, okay, first of all, respect the strength, respect the hardcore just strangling. This is what I mean, man. It's just interesting. It's just interesting. I see how they form fan clubs. I gotta say, I'm not a fan of doing that just because obviously it's not good. But yeah, I mean they're so fringe. Serial
I
killers,
totally
you
understand
know.
what you're saying, though. Like, I totally understand what you're saying. Here's why. Like, you think of the Columbine shooters, right?
Mm,
And you think of, wait, did they both? They both died. They both killed
mm-hmm.
themselves. But it's the same. Like, these people still get love letters. It's instead of prison though, it's just like a million Tumblr girls talking about them, right? But the
Yeah.
point is that they have this fandom, and and the reason is because not even just girls idolizing them romantically, but you also have boys idolizing them in kind of a relatable, pragmatic way. Which instead of, oh, I want this dead killer to be my romantic interest, the boys that idolize these killers, it's more like, oh, I can relate and understand why they did what they did, right? Like, oh,
Yeah.
I also get bullied. I also
Yeah, I
like
wanted to like
people
take the
bully me all the
power
time, treat me like
back.
shit.
Yeah.
Right, right. I don't think these people realize like what it would actually feel like to actually be in that moment killing someone. I feel like that changes you as a human
Mm-hmm.
being. But I think it's really easy to just be in your bed thinking about like, oh yeah, I would totally shoot up a school, right?
Yeah.
So
Well, and it's
because I also
interesting.
get
I
treated
do
like
like
shit.
acknowledging it as like a human thing. I think, you know, people aren't as moral as we make ourselves out to be naturally, and I think that it makes sense that
Oh
people
yeah.
would be interested. But it is also sad when you think about, like you mentioned, people relating. It takes a pretty fat victim complex for you to choose to shoot up a school. It takes a whole lot of like. There's got to be some part of you that believes that they deserve it, you know, because you've been bullied and you've went through shit, and it's just so interesting and sad that by being a victim, you should gain understanding for other victims, right? Like, right?
Right.
By
No,
going through shitty
but
shit, you
here's the
should be able
thing.
to
Here's the
look at
thing,
other
Sonny.
people and say, you don't deserve this shitty shit. I know what that feels like. It's so interesting
No.
that it can go the other way.
But Sonny, I think you forget this. One, you're talking about teenagers. Like their sense of empathy isn't completely developed. And number two, yeah, like feeling bad. I think like we would think like that's the first place your mind goes. But again, especially being a teenager, I feel like that might be the second place your mind goes.
Yeah.
But the first place
Well,
your
it
mind
also
goes is
depends on
more
who you are. I'm sure that's where a lot of people's mind goes, but for
right.
people with sociopathic tendencies or whatever it is, I don't want to just pin it on that, but with people with these
But no,
tendencies.
Sonny, this is what I'm telling you.
Mm,
I mean, yeah, like all teens are little sociopaths, kind of. But what I'm saying is, I don't think you have to have sociopathic tendencies for your mind
mm,
to not go to empathy in the first place.
yeah.
I think that there are people that are very naturally empathetic. Like, for example, I know that you are more empathetic than I am. I just know that as a fact. That's not a joke. That's just something that I really think, right?
Aw, you shouldn't
You
have.
know, I know. I mean, let me. Your comments about the killer is kind of concerning, but beyond that, no. Like my point is that there are people that are more empathetic than others, and that's okay.
Hmm.
And I can totally see myself as a very immature teen if I got bullied, thinking more, "Wow, my life sucks. Why am I getting bullied? Fuck these people." Then um like how can I advocate for the end of bullying and also help other people who are being bullied? Like my mind isn't
Mm,
automatically going to go to that,
mm.
and I'm sure a lot of other people also wouldn't. And if you take what I said first to like the ninth power, like murder, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that's a natural transition. I think maybe to actually like be a murderer, you probably do have to be a sociopath. But like the base of that is not really
I
that
love your
strange at
like
all.
exponents. You got like the base, then you got like to the ninth power.
Bitch, I said math. Now listen. So there's that. And what I was gonna say is, you said it must take a pretty like big fat like victim complex for you to blah blah blah. And what I think is, it must take a big ass like terrible childhood and like bullying session
Hmm.
for you to become kind of French and shit. And maybe we need to be fixing society. That's such a
Oh
like a
yeah, yeah.
like r/I'm 14 and this is deep thing to say. Like we live in a society, but you know what you
Yeah.
feel what
No,
I'm
no, no.
saying?
I totally agree with that too. If anything, I think there's so many different things we could talk about there. I feel like the nuclear family is not an adequate way to raise a child. Two people raising
Mm-hmm.
like two children at a time. That shit is too stressful for two people. There's a reason why moms get
Mm-hmm.
stressed and angry and why Karens are the way that they are. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
not to just Karens is a whole other deal as well. But
I mean, listen, racist Karen's bad, but just like a normal non-racist Karen, I can kind of empathize. I mean, shit, being a mom is hard.
well, yeah, I mean that's my whole thing. It's just like we need other family members in the picture because then also if you got some crazy abusive person in the mix, um, there's been a movement recently not to use the word crazy negatively. We'll just cancel that. It's canceled. It's done. Um, Basically, if you have a really abusive person in the family and you have multiple people involved, they can help. They can like help you out with that. I like feel that growing up. There were just like certain people in my life that weren't as shitty as others who like helped my life a lot. You know what I mean? It takes a village. It really does.
Totally.
And I think that
Totally.
among many other things is like what kids are probably lacking in some cases. Um, you know.
Yeah. Like, can two parents provide a full structure for a child? Sure, they can, but it's far easier if you have a village helping, which is why that saying is a thing.
Hmm.
And also, most parents won't be
Yeah.
able to alone themselves provide that full structure because more
Because they're
some people are
working
more
too,
prepared for
right?
parenthood than
Not every
others,
parent can afford
and they're
to
working.
hire a nanny so that they're not as stressed all the time. Or, you know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, yeah,
And that's the thing, like a lot of parents won't be able to do that, and it's not completely their fault because if it's something like work, well, you have to provide for your child. It's like a whole ass
yeah,
thing.
yeah. And then if
So
you're a single
I
parent,
yeah,
I mean, your time
yeah,
is
exactly.
just, it's so strong. It's just, I'm already struggling just holding my full time. I mean, not struggling, but I'm really busy holding a full time job. Trying to take care of a kid once I'm home on top of that, yeah, I would flip.
I
Oh my
know,
gosh.
bitch. This is your child. Are you kidding me?
This is literally, I'm pulling all nighters for this. Um, for real.
Anyway, what was your murder?
Okay, okay. We'll pop it in. So, Raymond Martinez Fernandez and Martha Jewel Beck. So, Raymond's backstory is cool because he was born in Hawaii to Spanish parents. He eventually went to work on his uncle's farm in Spain, married a Spanish woman, and lived a life there and had 4 children. Yeah, all of whom he abandoned later in life because he served in British intelligence during World War II, decided to board a ship to the US, and on the ship, on the way there, a steel hatch fell on him, fracturing his skull and injuring his frontal lobe, and it's actually theorized that the damage by this injury may have changed his personality. like affected his social and sexual behavior. So so
Ooh.
yeah, no, literally after his release from a hospital, he starts stealing, and he ends up in jail. And a cellmate there and convinces him that he can do voodoo on women to control them. So when he gets out of prison, he starts targeting women through personal ads. I'm telling you, there have been. First of all, there have been 5 movies made out of these killings: Lonely Hearts Killers, Honeymoon
Wow.
Killers, Deep Crimson, Lonely Hearts, Alleluia, and from different countries. We've got Mexican, American, Belgian, French. Because I'm telling you,
Okay.
this story just sounds like a cult classic coming into place. The dude has a whole life and then has a hatch fall on him and it has a personality change. Crazy. And then we have the second player in our story, who's Martha Jules Seabrook. So she has a glandular problem and she is very overweight. She also later on during her trial actually brings up that she was raped by her brother when she was younger, and when she tried to tell her mother what happened, her mother beat her and told her that Martha was the responsible one, which is that's got to be tough. And
Uh
so
huh.
basically she gets older, she's really lonely, she is all about romance books and novels and movies, which is just funny. This is why they're called the Lonely Hearts Killers. That is their title, these two. And she places a personal ad. So Fernandez himself responds to her ad thinking that he's already victimized a couple of women by like stealing from them and things after responding to their personal ads. What he does is he gets close to them and then they give him their bank information and then he drops them and uses that. So this woman, Martha, they meet up, but something happens where they end up matching up. So I've seen one explanation that he liked that she was very available to him and would do anything for him. She has 2 previous children that she abandons and gives to an orphanage essentially to move to where he is and be with him. And there are claims like that was what he viewed as, oh, she actually loves, like as a true declaration of love. I mean, there's no real way to know exactly what it is, the chemistry between these two, but they end up
Mm-hmm.
doing this stuff together. They end up looking at personal ads. She claims to be his sister, so that the woman is less scared, right? And then they lure women to like live with them, or for them to live with her, and eventually end up killing and robbing them, essentially. So
Okay. Well, lit.
yeah, I mean, just such an interesting story. You've got like this uh, unattractive woman, I guess, which is like a lot of newspapers and stuff when they're talking about these murders really sensualize like, oh, she was so unattractive and like what a strange couple. Although when I'm looking at her photos, it's like nothing too crazy there. She's
Mm-hmm.
just like
Mm-hmm.
overweight. Which also I don't think should necessarily just be an immediate signal of unattractiveness. I think it's more who she is that's that's
Right.
contributing here.
Right.
But just such an interesting couple. Crazy that they had the chemistry to pull this off together. Um, and so, yeah, I can just so see how this would become a movie. I can just see it so, 2 very interesting, quirky
Wow.
characters. Who knows how their chemistry worked? If you want to have a watch party and watch one of these together, we can do that. Um, and and then they went off and they
Wow.
did their thing. Yep.
Well, listen. Love comes in all shapes, sizes, and crimes. So I don't see why anything about you or your life should inhibit you from finding true love. I am terrified and also happy for the two. So, kudos.
Uh, they were out there killing women and children. But kudos. they found
But
they
they
found their
found
person.
love.
Can you imagine them like as a modern day couple and they're like posting stories on Instagram like finally found my person? You're like, dude, that's a weird looking couple. And then you find out they've been like killing people.
Oh my god, dude. Bitch, throwback Thursday to this killing. Like, okay, this episode's over. Bye. Now listen. If you have any any future episode ideas, please do let us know by DMing us on Twitter or Instagram. Our username is at TalkScary, or on our Facebook page at Scary Talk. Remember that you can find this podcast on any and all podcast listening platforms. That is Stitcher, TuneIn, Anchor, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, etc. Also, we have a very, very special episode planned for you next week, so don't forget to tune in for that. And anything else, Sunny?
Heart emoji, heart emoji, heart emoji. Thanks for listening. Yeah, what a fun but scary
Yeah,
episode.
heart emoji.
If you have the instinct to kill someone, get some help, please.
Yeah, and also don't forget to. No, kidding.
But yeah, thanks for listening.
Yeah, so heart emoji, shocked emoji, knife emoji, and we love you. Good night.
Good night.